Perhaps the most consistently dramatic moment in sports is the penalty shootout. 5 players from each team take turns shooting from the penalty spot, one after the other. In turn, they continue shooting until one team has scored more penalties and is declared the winner. Penalty shootouts in football have been used to decide Champions Leagues, FA Cups, and even the FIFA World Cup Final. It's so simple. All you have to do is shoot the ball into the net while everyone is watching. Today, I want to talk about penalty shootouts, not just because they are dramatic and engaging, but because I want to show you why most footballers are taking penalties wrong, at least according to game theory. Let's talk about it. To start, let's cover game theory and what it is. At a basic level, game theory is an application of economics that tries to quantify optimal decision-making when you're in a competitive environment, the science of making strategic decisions. The classic example of this is the prisoner's dilemma, where hypothetical prisoners are making simultaneous decisions and each prisoner's outcome is interdependent on the other. Game theory is the science of how to think about these interdependent scenarios and make more optimal strategic decisions so you can hopefully achieve better results.
Goldman is the greatest that has ever lived. He folds and doesn't even let his opponent know how strong he is.
Game theory is a powerful tool, and it can be extrapolated and used in fields ranging from psychology, war, politics, business, and of course, sports. So back to the penalty. There are only 2 actors or players here, the kicker and the goalie, and they are both making simultaneous decisions with imperfect information. This is game theory. In the split seconds, as the shooter runs toward the ball, the goalie is trying to judge. Where is he likely to shoot? Top left? Bottom right? He may have done his scouting and knows that a shooter prefers to kick it to the top left corner. But then the question becomes, is the shooter going to aim there again? Maybe he wants to go bottom right this time to throw me off. But then maybe he knows that I know that, so he's going to go top left after all, and so on. And at the exact same time, the shooter is trying to judge all of these same things about the goalkeeper. And these decisions directly lead to a competitive outcome, as the shot either scores the goal or it doesn't. Now, for all of these reasons, we can use game theory to analyze the penalty. You may have noticed that there is one shot choice that I have not mentioned yet, and that is shooting right down the middle. So in every clip I've played so far of a penalty, whether it was successful or not, the goalie is diving to the left or to the right, trying to save the shot. And most of the time they're diving before they even see where the kicker is shooting towards. Now, if that's the case, that will inevitably leave the middle of the goal wide open. So a savvy penalty taker, knowing that goalies are likely to dive, can just slot the ball right down the middle for an easy goal. These shots in the center of the goal can range from a blast right in the heart of the net to a cheeky chip shot that is known as the Penalty, named after a Czech footballer who made the shot famous in the 1970s. All that said, in theory, it seems like a good idea for penalty takers to pick the down the middle shot at a high rate, or at least at a comparable rate to shooting left or right. It will only be saved if the goalie also similarly chooses to sit right in the middle of the goal. And this is a choice that goalies make at a pretty low percentage. This whole engagement is just an application of game theory, but note that it's theory. And theory is only so good. How does this actually work in practice? In 2002, Pierre-Andre Chiappori, Stephen Levitt, and Timothy Grosclose looked at 2 years of data of penalty kicks at the highest level of footballing competition. What they found corroborated the theory. Across the data that they analyzed, shooting down the middle had the highest expected payoff for the shooter. It was the most likely shot to result in a goal at an 81% success rate. The other shots in the study are split between the natural, basically the kicker's natural way to pull the ball, and the non-natural side being the opposite. Shots taken to the shooter's natural side are roughly 76% successful in the data, with the opposite being around 70% successful. However, the data also showed another fact here that is highly revealing. Despite the high success rate, the down the middle shot was by far the least chosen shot by penalty takers. There was only 79 down the middle shots of the 459 in the sample, just 17.2%. We are very far from the 33-33-33 split in shot directions that you might expect if shooters are perfectly randomizing their shot selection. And anecdotally, this rings true. In the hours of football that I've watched, it feels like penalty takers dominantly shoot to the sides of the net, only rarely picking the middle shot. Now, this begs the question of why? To come up with a potential answer to this, we must, as we always should, look to the incentives. In a game theory situation, we assume that the players of the game are purely rational actors. Basically, each person is trying to do their very best to win that specific situation. However, in reality, there are some additional incentives at play. Most notably, these people, the shooter and the goalie, are humans. And so naturally, they also want to minimize any personal embarrassment and maximize the fans of their team being happy with them. And to put it simply, if the kicker decides to go down the middle and misses, or worse, is saved by the goalie, he risks looking like a fool.
Oh, that is the worst penalty I have ever seen!
If the penalty is saved to the right or to the left, the narrative more typically revolves around the heroics of the goalkeeper and that incredible save. And at least the shooter tried the normal strategy, even if it didn't work. But if you missed down the middle, you made a dumb error, and you could go down in infamy. In 1994, Roberto Baggio was one of the greatest footballers in the world. He had won the Ballon d'Or the year before and was the leader of the Italian World Cup team. Throughout the knockout round of the World Cup, he was Italy's star, scoring multiple crucial goals, leading the team to the finals against the Brazilian team. And they found themselves in a penalty shootout to determine that year's World Cup champion. After 8 penalties, the Italians found themselves in a do-or-die moment. They needed to score a penalty to stay alive. And up steps their captain, Roberto Baggio. Baggio steps up to take his penalty, runs at the ball, and then absolutely blazes it over the bar. And Italy loses. Roberto Baggio is a truly great Italian footballer and one of the greatest players of the 20th century. But perhaps what he is most remembered for is this singular penalty miss. And he is known as the man who died standing. This is a fate that no player wants. And so, knowing this, we can now rebuild our success matrix. And now we're going to have emotional outputs such as embarrassment or joy, as opposed to just optimizing for scoring a goal. So, scoring a penalty, whether right, left, or middle, it's going to have the same output. As the shooter, you did your job. You succeeded for your team. Missing the penalty right or left earns some ire from the fans, and you're pretty upset, but at least you don't look silly. It's definitely bad, but it's not the worst. However, missing down the middle, whether the goalie saved it or you blazed it over the bar like Baggio, that can result in infamy. And this is how we can understand the gap between the projected payoff of the middle shot and the amount footballers actually shoot down the middle. Because the actors in the penalty shootout are humans, they're not optimizing perfectly for the goal of the game. Human nature gets in the way. So as footballers continue to commonly pick the left or the right aimed penalty shot, they are proving that human nature is more powerful than purely economic decision making. Now, all this isn't to say that a down the middle penalty will always work. Far from it. Just a few weeks ago, Manchester City player Bernardo Silva shot directly at the goalie during the penalty shootout in the Champions League quarterfinal against Real Madrid, a shootout that Manchester City ended up losing. As we might expect, Bernardo Silva's choice to shoot down the middle resulted in outrage from his team's fans and taunts from the rest of the footballing world. But game theory would tell us that Bernardo Silva, Roberto Baggio, and other down-the-middle penalty takers still made a good choice. So if you're a footballer, consider taking that down-the-middle penalty kick a little more often. Even if you miss, you can be confident that, at least according to game theory, you made a good choice. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly hope that you enjoyed this breakdown of the penalty shot and some aspects of game theory. It was really fun to make, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, you should subscribe right here on YouTube for video essays just like this that are going to be coming soon. I'll see you guys in the next one.